attractive.
Given how much potential for conflict there is in Elijah's life with practically everyone, is there someone that you personally want to see him get into it with?
I think my desires are pretty irrelevant, but let's talk about some irrelevancies. I think it would be really neat. I always kind of want to see the adult version of this show. I think and I said it like 10 times in different things. I'm not trying to plant the seeds, but like I would in a heartbeat. I'd do anything that Julie Plick wanted to go and do. First of all, but if she and Kevin wanted to go and make something a little more adult, with these characters, like that would be really exciting to me. And so that sort of course, has all the ramifications of. I do like the idea of getting him closer to this idea that we were talking about before, about them operating discreetly within a contemporary world. I do like the idea of them being somewhere like New York, just because I want to shoot there. Somewhere like New York and operating out of there and kind of being, almost mafia-like. That to me is a really exciting idea, of trying to maintain the sort of secrecy of their condition, but also kind of trying to satiate this desire for power, which they all seem to have.
How did you mention that Elijah came on menacing and has become sort of more humanized, and that's happened with a lot of the characters on the show, starting with Damon, and even now last week with Klaus. He's the most evil vampire hybrid ever, but he also draws horses. How do you keep the balance going, and is there going to be someone who comes in to be even more menacing now that you guys have gotten nicer?
That's an interesting question. I can't answer that. I do think that I think it's kind of cultural. I think the United States here, I've noticed that people are very afraid. They call people good guys and bad guys, and really, really frequently, and I don't think that that's what people are. I think that they're much more complex and interesting than that. But I do think that it's a fear of not, that and I understand it. For Julie and Kevin building a show like this, you got to be careful that you don't go too heavily in one direction. Possibly. I don't know. I've never written a show like this. I sometimes think though that people can be too guarded about thinking, okay, well if he's too evil, then nobody's going to like him, mate. I've seen the opposite of that happen. So I don't really know sort of what's correct, but I do think that in order to sort of integrate a character into like a folklore, sooner or later you do have to humanize them, which I think is Julie and Kevin's great skill. Is that is that they have to humanize them, and that means exposing aspects of them that aren't necessarily in one given direction. I'm boring, aren't I?
No, it's interesting.
I'm falling asleep listening to me. So how do you?
Oh, I'm sorry.
No.
But you were talking about making it a more adult show. Is there anything else? You seem like you're up on your vampire stuff. Is there any other show that you feel like is it being human, or is there something that you think would be that fantasy of a more adult?
That's an interesting question. Are you typing this as fast as I'm talking? Can you do that?
Yeah.
That's so special. A special skill. Let's give it up for that. Let me think about that. Yeah, I'd love to see a Breaking Bad version of this show. That's what I'd like to see. I'd like to see it shot more like Friday Night Lights, But who the hell am I? I'm an actor in the thing. It's not my show. And you might lose your demographic. You're going to. You're going to if you go in that direction. Because you're going to gain a whole other one, but it might be smaller and not as profitable.
You mentioned that the originals seem to want to be putting down roots and establishing Mystic Falls kind of as their home so they can live there in peace and harmony with everybody. Yet there's a serial killer kind of on the loose who's been in Elena's house and attacked somebody close to Elena. Don't you think that they want to kind of clean up their own backyard at some point?
Do you mean the members of the community?
Well, no, for the originals. If they're going to settle down here, they should care about the quality of the people that are amongst them.
All right.
And who's posing threats to a doppelganger and to anybody else they care about.
Well, that gives birth to another question: is do you think that the originals are aware who this wandering menace is?
I don't think they have to know. They just should. They should feel like somebody's intruding on their territory. They should want to protect what they have.
But how do you know that it's not one of them?
Poses an interesting question.
Now, the originals, after they've been undaggered, after in some cases being locked in a coffin for hundreds of years, they really seem to adjust to modern times very quickly. Is that a specific quality of being an original, or is that just something we just sort of go with on the show?
Look, if you were to adhere to what would be correct, which I always find so ridiculous. Like sometimes you literally will be talking to writers here, and they'll be saying, "Yeah, actually, what we did was, traditionally people were called the, if the name was this, you'd become the Michelsons because you're the son of Michael, and this is where and you're talking about historical accuracy. Meanwhile, my inner monologue is saying, if we were doing this for historical accuracy, when the mother emerges, she wouldn't even be able to speak any language that we would be able to identify in any way, shape, or form. Do you know what I mean? Like it would be some kind of Gaelic, that would be, I don't know what you're saying. You sound like Beowulf, right? So I mean, it's a balancing act. This is a show. It's fun, and it kind of, you have to, if this is even a word, contemporize. Can I say that? You have to sort of contemporize these creatures sort of immediately. I'd also been off, you're talking like, there's big talk online for some reason about my haircut, which to me seems obscene and redundant. Please do not put images of me online of this, by the way, with my terrible hair here. But no, it's interesting. Like, there was so much talk about, did he have a haircut in the coffin? I remember thinking, get haircut from because I had the scene, and then in the where I had my former hair or whatever, and then I emerged with a new haircut or whatever. I mean that's not the biggest example of it. I mean Casper Zephyr playing Finn, like he comes out looking like something, Pirates of the Caribbean or something, and then in the next scene he's like very modern. I mean you have to do that. You have to imagine that they've been schooled, and frankly. A training montage of getting somebody to look and feel modern would be very dull to our viewers. So,
it's going to be hilarious.
I actually do. I think so too. But it's more of a Funny or Die thing. Where you
I'm serious.
Yeah, I should make that.
Can you talk about your relationship with Rebecca and how that might develop?
I love that actress. I love Claire Holt. I love. They actually seem to be. She seems to be a little more megalomaniacal than perhaps I originally thought she was going to be, because she's definitely drawn to Klaus's will and Klaus's intention and doing what he says. She's a lot more beholden to him, and I think feels a lot less. Not so much anymore. She's growing as impatient and disgusted with him as it seems Elijah is. But certainly when she first emerged on the show, she was, she looked like she was more inclined to go the Klaus way of things. And I think that she's certainly got a temper. I don't know if she's certainly not as patient as Elijah or as, but there is something sort of special there. I'm surprised that they haven't done more with them, but I guess that's in between Elijah and Rebecca. But I'm sure that'll be in the pipeline.
Any other questions?
Anything else you can tease?
No. Thank you so much, you guys.
Thank you.
You're
Thank you.
awesome.